Welcome to the Dr. Franken Steve Podcast with your hosts, Dr. Frank Williams and Dr. Steve Snodgrass, MD, FACS, where we discuss a broad range of topics without limitations. Let's get to it. Here's Dr. Frank and Dr. Steve.
Hello, welcome back. This is the Dr. Franken Steve Podcast. I'm your host, Frank Williams. This is the co-host, Dr. Steve Snodgrass, MD, FACS. Today we're going to be covering a topic that is starting to become popular as you see ads for these all over the internet and starting to see them as well on streaming and television, as well as streaming services, social media. So we're going to be covering e-bikes, what they are, what some of the risks are, the age group, some things you may or may not know, but some things to consider if you're looking into getting an e-bike, or for you or your family, or for young children. So I'll start off with Dr. Steve, let him do his thing, and then I'll pop in with some of the more legal areas of what states allow and don't allow, and the age groups and all that, and then just some of the findings that I have found as we research this subject. So Steve.
Thank you much. Welcome. And this is a subject that's kind of near and dear to my heart because, I'm a cyclist, but I do not have an e-bike. I just ride a regular one. But anyway, I'm a bit of a purist, if you will.
Okay.
So with that. But anyway, I had no idea. It's one of those things where, again, it's just becoming more and more popular. And I think yesterday, and we had planned to do this today, not knowing this, but I think Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie's kid, Pax or whatever, had an e-bike wreck. And I think it's reported he's had multiple e-bike wrecks. So
I think I'd get an e-Uber.
Yeah, or e-walk, something. But it really is very dangerous, and we'll get into all that. But I had no idea that the first patent for this was in 1895, which I just thought was pretty incredible, because I was just like, what do you do in 1895? And I'm like, well, I'm just thinking I'm going to make an e-bike. I mean, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
it's pretty good. Ogden Bolton Jr. invented and patented the first e-bike. And so basically battery powered in the rear hub of the bicycle. And what's incredible is that technology is still in use in the braking system of today's bicycle. So that's pretty amazing, I think, for that many years to go by. But anyway, it's a hub at the hub, so it's right in the back wheel. It can be in the front wheel, but it just causes the wheel just to spin itself.
Right.
So, and a mid-drive motor is one that's near the center of the bike, as the name implies, and it has something to do with the gears of the bike.
Yeah, right up above the pedals normally, that whole slant.
Yeah. So there's those are the two different things, but in the 1970s, they said there was kind of a breakthrough in something called the pedelec, which was just a new breed of bike, and it stands for pedal electric cycles. And it just basically means the motor kicks in when the person starts to pedal. So, and it looks like the lithium-ion battery is kind of one of the things that made the biggest difference as far as mass adoption of this. So it's becoming more and more prevalent, as you said. And one of the things that people need to look at is torque, which is the turning force that produces the rotation, measured in Newton meters. So low torque is less than 50 Newton meters, high torque is greater than 65. And all of these things, we mentioned the technology part of it is because, parents are getting them for their kids and that sort of thing. And so it's really a powerful, it's a powerful machine.
It is, yes.
And
especially if your growth plates as a child haven't fully developed and you're still growing. So damage can be done pretty severely at that age, those ages, rather.
You know, one thing that I found, I ride in different places. I've kind of got like a city ride and a country ride. And city ride, I usually do like, well, if it's a threat of rain, I can park my car in this neighborhood and I'm never more than a half a mile away from my car. So it's got its advantages. Like if it's a threat of rain, I can still go out and ride my bike. But one thing I found that's just frightening is like, there'll be some like 4 or 5 year old kid or whatever, who's in a motorized, well, I don't know what they are. I mean, it's like a little motorized Barbie vehicle or something. I don't know what it is. But for whatever reason, this, you know, when you're riding, and, you know, I'm probably riding about, where I usually see these kids, I'm riding about 15, 16 miles an hour, something like that. And these kids, when they see you, they start coming towards you. And I'm just like, you know, hey kid, can you not see me? It's like, why are you coming towards me? And so the whole point is, I mean, here's like a 4 or 5 year old kid who has zero judgment, really, and they're out on public streets.
And usually zero supervision.
Right. And so it's like, you know, here's this kid coming at you, and you know, any little movement on a bicycle can throw you or cause you to fall or anything like that. So it just causes me to slow down. It just interrupts the flow. And then plus you think like, am I going to hit this kid or is he going to hit me? So it really is a little bit disconcerting. And then when you step it up another age bracket, as what you mentioned earlier, like some of these kids are like 12 or something like that, 10, 12, they're riding around golf carts and they're listening to loud music. And, you know, I'm just sounding like an old man. A lot of kids listen to loud music, you know, but they're riding around this golf cart paying no attention. And so it's like, I'm on a bicycle and, you know, a golf cart is a formidable foe.
Yes.
So
with a bicycle anyway.
Yeah. And so you're really looking at it like, it's a dangerous thing to do anyway. But my point is, minors don't have any kind of like, I'm going to say, if you're 16 or you know, 16 is okay. If you're on a motorized vehicle at age 16, I don't really have a big problem with that because that's when you get your driver's license and you start to get some coordination and some, you know, ability to manage a motorized vehicle. And that's what it's really what it is, a motorized vehicle. And there's 3 classes of it. And what you were saying earlier too is like the classes vary and the laws about the classes in different states, they all vary. It's like a class 1 is the motor provides assistance when you pedal and it'll max out at 20 miles an hour. Right. And then on the second one, the motor may be exclusively used where you don't have to pedal at all and it'll take you up to 20 miles an hour. Then a class 3 provides assistance only when the person is pedaling the bike, but it can go up to like 28 miles per hour. And then some of these people are taking this thing to where I guess they, like a governor, they take that off or alter it. Because I've seen where they can go like 37, 38 miles an hour. And
I just got a couple advertisements because of doing the research. You know, Google spies on you night and day. You know, you snore, they want to send you something for you know, breathing treatments. But anyway, the one that I got said that it's a new kind. I think it's about $1,300, so it's an expensive e-bike, but it's foldable. And it said without pedal assist, this is it's called a V8 turbo, not as in an engine, but that's what they call it. That thing hits speeds of up to 50 miles an hour. And I thought, you know, it looks like a mountain bike, but it says it's for the road, the person that wants to go off-road, so it gives them more torque, more power, gives them more speed to get up hills. And I'm thinking 50 miles an hour on something like that, it's like riding a stick. Basically, you hit something at 50 miles an hour in that thing, and especially when a lot of people do not wear helmets with them, you're pretty much going to be a vegetable the rest of your life.
You're going to be dead, but you're going to look like you have like all your skin gone along with it. So, but I was out in the, I get out on these country roads and just like, you never know where they're going to take you, but that's part of the fun of it. It's just like, I'm out here riding, I'm enjoying the countryside, and I'm just kind of like, well, this is, riding a bike is fun. But I got on this hill, and I'm going like, this thing looks rather steep. It looks rather steep. So, but I'm feeling frisky, so I'm just kind of starting to pedal, and like I hit right at 50, 51, something like that. And I felt like, I might need a Depends. Because man, you don't really know how fast that feels. I mean, on the bicycle, and mine's a road bike. I mean, it's built for speed, and it's got the little skinny tires. And like you hit one thing,
and you're gone.
And everybody, if you've seen the other podcasts that we've done, I've discussed my bike wreck. Where I was basically, I hit loose gravel. And I saw my computer, I was going 15.2 miles per hour, 15. And that broke my femur, broke a rib, cracked my helmet. It would have cracked my skull if I hadn't had a helmet on. But it's like, that was at 15 miles an hour. And the femur is the biggest bone, the hardest bone to break. And so when you break your femur,
you hit just right.
I mean, that is a hit. And, so it's extremely dangerous that you're seeing these things out here, and
especially at 50 miles an hour. I thought, well, maybe I started reading. I said, maybe you have to do something to it. Nope. That's the way it comes stock and delivered to you. And I said, I seen the 28, and I know that the government, or the U.S. government, and most municipalities or agencies classify anything above the 28 miles an hour as either, there's not such thing technically as a class 4, but they consider it other than bike. It was one of the terms I read, or other than e-bike. And I don't know what you call it, because they call them super bikes, super e-bikes also. But we see them flying around, like I said, even with the golf cart. I have a friend that lives about a mile from us in a subdivision. I live kind of on a country road, but a main drag country road, nice area. But everybody in their neighborhood has golf carts. And there's been multiple accidents with these teenagers getting 3 or 4 of their friends in, acting silly, going down the road. Somebody was coming in a bike. They didn't realize it, and they swerved at the last second to miss the bike. The bike person goes into the mailbox, which thank goodness they weren't going that fast. The golf cart flips over and breaks one kid's arm, breaks another kid's leg. They were lucky it wasn't more serious than that, because they hit a curb and an embankment and flipped over.
Well,
I'm sure the bicycle person wasn't thrilled either.
No. I mean, because you're so cognizant of your surroundings, or at least I am when I ride, because you have to use all of your senses. Because like people are going to pull out in front of you in cars, golf carts, dogs chase you. I mean, so you really have to be aware.
Especially in Kentucky.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, and not to mention, I've been out in the country before, and like it's really like it's one of the things a cyclist just hates to see. It's like you're riding, and then like there's a car that passes you, and then the car goes up about 50 yards or whatever, and just stops. And so you wonder, like, what is on their mind? Why would they stop in the middle of the road? So they stopped, I stopped. And then what happened is like they start backing up, which is even more concerning. And so they ended up, I'll never forget it, because this guy had like this big tattoo on his right forearm. He was flipping me off, and then they started throwing beer cans at me. So I had to go, I took my bike, went behind this giant oak tree. And I said, like, well, if you're gonna try to run over me or whatever you're gonna try to do to me, if it's gonna be car versus bicycle, I'm definitely gonna lose. But if it's car versus 100-year-old oak tree, I've got a good shot at winning that one. But the only reason I say all of these things is because, I'm telling you these bicycle stories, but then put them literally in the next gear when you're on the e-bike. And so like anything can happen to you going that fast. And you think like 20 is a pretty good speed. Mm-hmm. And when I was younger, I could do 20 miles in 1 hour. I could do that, but I kind of felt like I was Tour de France material, with 20, I'm sure. Yeah, I felt that way. That doesn't mean I was that way.
Yeah.
But, because I think they, some of them average.
That was some speedos moving.
Yeah, exactly. But it's one of those things where, going 20 is, and I'm a grown adult. I mean, I'm in my 30s, and for a kid, I think like 37% of these accidents are kids less than 14. I'm going like a kid 14 or less has no business on an e-bike, in my opinion. I mean, it's just way too dangerous, and your reaction time when your speed is up, the smallest little bit of a movement makes the biggest difference.
Yeah. Did you research like what JAMA put out, their 2024 study? I don't know if you've seen that one or not.
I'm not sure.
About the number of hospitalizations and injuries.
I mean, I've seen some of it. The thing I have is like 57% more likely to get in a wreck than an average or normal bicycle. Mm-hmm. But you go ahead and tell me what you found.
When I pulled off this morning, John, I'm sure you're familiar with that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I am. I definitely am.
And what does JAMA stand for, Steve?
Journal of the American Medical Association.
Yes. They reported in 2024, or this year rather, that, e-bike injuries have increased 30-fold from 2017 through 2022. And it says the number of hospitalizations are on the rise, with more than 45,000 ER visits and over 5,000 hospitalizations just from those injuries. And then globally, it is even higher because there's so many, obviously, in different countries that don't have the automobiles that we drive around, which everybody in the room has on the US.
And they've talked about the people that ride e-bikes, most of them don't wear helmets. Mm-hmm. And there are factors in there like rentals. So, you can go in and like scooters and everything, you can rent an e-bike, and so you're not going to have a helmet because there's, if you're just in the middle of some city somewhere or something like that, you're not going to be carrying your helmet around or wear somebody else's helmet. So you're going to be riding around without a helmet. And, so traumatic brain injury or concussions are one of the main areas, that you really got to guard against. And also, I mean, just the ones you think about: broken arms, broken legs, broken collarbones. Mm-hmm. And, one thing that we like to do is like you got your life experiences, I've got my life experiences, and we try to tell people about them, both good and bad, so you can share those along with us. But one of the things that I don't think that people think about, and is like, I was 11 years old when it was the first. I mean, I was a sick kid, mm-hmm. but I don't remember early hospitalizations. I mean, like I had a hernia surgery at 3 months, so of course I don't remember that. But I remember at 11 years old, I was playing in a little league baseball game, playing center field. This has nothing to do with cycling, but it has everything to do with being a patient. Okay. And so that's where I'm going. But there you go. Yeah. So anyway. Just let me ramble.
Let me ramble, yes.
Just let me ramble. Anyway, because I'm playing center field, a kid hits a home run. And there's a lot of life stories in all this. There's a lot of life lessons. So each one of these little snippets, just pay attention now. So I'm playing center field, other kid's playing right field. The kid that's at batting hits a home run. I put my glove over the fence, I catch the home run ball. But I dove, and I'm running full speed. I dove, and my knee hit the kid, the right fielder, in the head, knocked him completely out. And then I did a flip, and like it just folded my knee back. And so what I remember, I held the ball up to show that I caught it. And let me tell you, ESPN was not around in those days. I'm telling you, it would that was a play, because like I was going full board, robbed him of a home run. It's just like that would have been like an ESPN highlight. But I couldn't get up. I just couldn't get up. And I held the ball up. Umpire signals that the kid's out. He sees it. So I just kind of weakly throw the ball in, and then I just kind of pass out. Then I wake up, because I'm not out long, but the opposing coach, so this is a Little League game, right? The opposing coach comes out of the dugout screaming, he dropped the ball. He dropped the ball. There's a life lesson for you right there, isn't it? It's just like, there's a guy like that coaching Little League.
That's all he cares about, yes.
It's all, it's like, it doesn't matter whether the center fielder who just made a great play, by the way. Doesn't matter if he's dead or he can't get up. What matters is that I'm trying to make that a home run. But anyway, long story short, I go to the hospital, and I am completely in another world now. I've never been in a situation like that ever. And just like they're coming at you with all kinds of different things, and all of a sudden I just get like jabbed in the hip with a shot of Demerol. I didn't even know it was coming. And then like they said, the doctor will be in about 30 minutes. We want to let the Demerol go to work on you a little bit, and then we're gonna have to drain your knee. And so like 3 hours later, he comes in. And of course, the drug effect is gone. So I'm just like sitting here. I'm just like a little kid, And he says like, well, he's pulling out this needle and syringe, and of course this needle looks like, that's a human. That thing looks like if you go to a horse needle. And he just said like, if we're going to stick this in your knee, and if we draw out clear fluid, I can probably watch you. But if we draw out blood, you're going to have to go to surgery. And so, I go through all that, and of course, he sticks the needle in my knee. I can feel it. I can feel that knee just scraping against my bone and everything. I was going like, this is a totally unpleasant experience.
Yeah, I bet.
It was just really bad. And of course, they drew blood, so I have to go. They didn't have a scope back then, so I mean, you're just filleted open. I mean, your leg is just filleted open. And you're 11 years old, and I was getting ready to go to like a new school and everything. So like I am now, my leg is just torn to pieces, and I'm on crutches for like, I think it was like 4 months. And the whole point of this is I'm an 11-year-old kid thrown into a world of hospitals, doctors, nurses, needles, knives, and you're scared to death. And you try not to be scared to death. It's just like, well, I can take this. And you have to, but it's like, who wants to be in that world at 11 years old? And so like these kids that are riding these e-bikes, they have no clue of that experience. And I don't want them to. And that's why if they say like, well, he's telling us that we can't ride an e-bike if we're less than 16, in his opinion, and he doesn't know what he's talking about. I was like, yeah, I do. I do know what I'm talking about.
That's why it's recommended that they wear safety helmets and gear, just almost like a skateboarder.
Yeah.
Try and protect them. But I do have one question. Was the ball considered out, or was it considered out, or did they say you dropped the ball?
No, he was out, and they called him out.
Okay.
I mean, I clearly caught the ball. I had my glove on my left hand, and my left hand was over the fence. I caught it, but it's just I was running as hard as I could, but the problem was so was the right fielder. And it turned, ironically, he turned out to be a physician as well. So it was just kind of funny. But he was not completely out. I mean, it just like, I just need him right in the face. I mean, he was gone.
Well, in all seriousness, like the Consumer Product Safety Commission in 2023 came out and said they found of all the injuries associated with e-bikes, between 2017 and 2022, which is the time period that John looked at, that there were over 233 deaths associated with those e-bikes. So you might not think that's a big deal, for a 5-year period, but 233 deaths for anything is kind of a big deal. Yeah. Especially if it's something that could be avoidable.
Yeah, especially if you're one of the 233.
That's right, yes.
It makes a difference then. But the thing about it is too, it's like while we're in the story mode, this is another thing. But it just does, it shows you what you're into in the real world.
Dr. Steve's neighborhood.
Exactly. Exactly. But this is like, I'm going to go get a new seat put on my bicycle. I'm at my office, and I tell my brother, I said, just follow me across the street to the bicycle shop. And, I'm just going to get a new seat on, and then we'll leave. So I got on a pair of like shorts and a short sleeve shirt and flip flops. I mean, I'm not geared for like this major ride or anything. All I'm riding is like realistically maybe 100, 200 yards to the bicycle shop. That's all I'm doing. So I'm in the lane that's going straight, and there's a woman that's in the left-hand turn lane only. And so, the light turns green. So I just start across the street, but I hear this engine rev, and I'm like, well, I'm just dead. I mean, that's the first thing I thought of, was like, I'm dead. And I look up, and her fender is on my left leg. But what she did was, like, she's in the left-hand turn lane only. Her little green arrow pointing left says go left. And she crosses like all of those lanes to hit me. And, like I can understand if she knew me, because she didn't know me. Yeah. But anyway, I looked up and saw that fender. It was right on my left leg, and it knocks me over. And my brother's behind me witnessing all this. And so I'm just laying in the middle of like the probably one of the busiest roads in where we live. I mean, it's just like constant traffic. And so another car comes and stops short of running over me, because I'm laying in the middle of the street. And so I had a hat on, and so I see this, I'm kind of like dazed, because like I just hit my entire body. Right. It wasn't so much the hit on the left that hurt, it was the landing that got me. It was like
with most falls.
Yeah, it's just the landing that gets you. It wasn't one of those where, I definitely stuck the landing. Definitely stuck the landing.
I'm saying.
But anyway, this girl gets out, and I'm, like I say, I'm a little dazed, and she gets out, and I was going like, hey, this is great. She's going to help me up and all this stuff. She grabs my hat, gets in the car, and takes off. So that was that. I mean, we are giving you some lessons in humanity here too, aren't we?
Yeah.
So I'm going to put her in the same category as the baseball coach who's running out saying he dropped the ball. So like, here's a guy that gets run over by a bike, and instead of saying like, sir, are you okay, can I help you? You just take my hat and then leave. And I was stunned by that. And I was, everything seemed like it was in slow motion, and the police were there. And now, now it's an event. There's a huge crowd, and I'm just kind of seeing things in black and white.
Did the lady that hit you stop?
Oh yeah, she was screaming her head off. She was screaming her head off. Just, total panic. And I just said like, why are you screaming? I said, I'm the one that got hit. And then again, the thing is, I landed, and it separated my right shoulder, and they thought that I broke the scaphoid bone, which is between the wrist and the thumb, and it's notorious for non-healing and avascular necrosis, which is a really bad thing for a surgeon, because it would have completely knocked me out of my career, with a useless right hand. And so I had to cancel a bunch of surgeries, and I had a bunch of different MRIs because they were watching this closely, because they said, like, if this is fractured, you've got a shot at, not a malunion, non-healing, all kinds of really bad things. So I get all these serial MRI tests and get all these things done, and her insurance company doesn't want to pay for anything. I'm going like, well, I don't want to get hit by a bike, miss work, and then have to pay out of my own pocket for all this stuff. So I ended up, I had to hire an attorney to just, all I wanted to do was get the medical bills taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, she, once we got into court, and when we got to court, her attorney says to my attorney, that your client hit my client. And I just said, like, sure. There's nothing I wanted to do more than just run my bicycle into that Chevrolet. That's exactly but it was like, that's humanity. That's just a part of humanity.
Well, the traffic investigator would have found that not to be true.
Oh, yeah.
With any witnesses or anybody.
But we ended up, selling things and all, because I wasn't trying to hurt this woman.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't want to pay all my own medical bills.
Right.
But, the reason that I'm onto my rant/ramble is because if, I was probably going about 7 or 8 miles an hour when I got hit. Think about going 20, 28 miles,
mm-hmm.
50 miles.
50 miles an hour.
And getting hit like that.
Yeah.
You are going to be airborne and die.
That's why helmets, maybe, elbow pads and knee pads, whatever. I know that people think that's a lot. That sounds silly. Most places require for skateboarding and stuff, if they're going to be out in the shred, especially if you're at a skate park or something, because the laws in every state vary. I pulled up all the laws. We're going through them for each state and what they require. Most states want you to be 14 years or older, depending on the class of bike that it is and how fast it goes. You've got many states that want it to be, you have to be 16 years old to ride like a class 3 bike. And there are a lot that have none. You got Arizona, Delaware, Georgia, Iowa, Kentucky, where we live, Kansas, Montana, Nebraska, Nevada. It goes on and on and on. New York, no. So there are no laws or no licensing. Anybody, any age, literally can ride the thing. Now, some states have it where you don't have to have anything, but you must be either 15 or 16 to be on it. But there are a lot of states that just none. Doesn't mean you have to have anything whatsoever. Your parents can buy you that e-bike at 12, 13, 11 years old. They can just ride it wherever,
And, for me, like, being a father, I just imagine like what it would be like if I had bought my kid an e-bike, and then the kid gets in a terrible wreck, and you're going to have to watch that kid go through all of this medical / potential surgical interventions, and how painful that is as a parent to watch your child go through that. And what we're trying to do is we want to prevent you from ever having to have that experience, because those experiences, I remember getting that knee drained like it was yesterday, and I'm 66 years old right now, and that happened to me when I was 11, and I remember it like yesterday.
Which is why it's important to have those helmets, even eye protection. If you're riding a bike, things can fly from people mowing the grass or whatever, but if you're wearing eye protection, not the dollar store eye protection, but decent eye protection, that can save you. It can save you from all kinds of injuries to your eyes. Same thing with if you're riding, because I've seen, like I said, riding through my friend's neighborhood, and even around here, a couple of the neighbors have the golf carts. I figure I'm not that lazy, so I'll just walk if I wanted to do that. But the fact that all these people also do that at night and ride around, these things normally don't have lights on them. And even if you do have a light on them, you need to have some type of protective vest that's that stick signs out. It's got a, kind of like you see with street police officers or traffic cops. So they have those reflective vests on and, reflective shoes, whatever it might be that helps you, because most bicyclists do it. And, it seems like reading some of these studies that people who ride bikes, who are serious bike riders, their precautions are tenfold over what people with e-bikes do. And like Steve said, we're not trying to knock you away, because you're not going to knock this fad down or this popularity, because it's growing, exponentially right now, tenfold, 100-fold, with people pushing those e-bikes. You can get them, like I said, where they fold up, stick them in the back of your car. You can almost carry them like a piece of luggage, unpop that thing out and get on it, start going to town. But you've got to be careful, and you've got to have, at the minimum, if you're younger, you should try and look for some type of safety course for e-bikes or bicycling, period, with your training. Just jumping on one because you think you can ride a bike and then, hop into it and getting out on the roadways. That's not the brightest thing in the world to do, because, the worst thing, like Steve said, you buy your kid one of these and you don't take the proper precautions, safety measures. You got little Johnny or Jessica one for their birthday, and the next thing you know, the first half of their school and their sports are done because they're nursing a broken arm, broken leg, or whatever it might be. So we're just saying, take precautions, no precautions, as you're considering, or if you've already got one.
And one thing too that people don't think of, and I think from what I read, this is what happened to this kid that had the wreck the other day. He just ran into the back of a car that was stopped at a light. I don't know if that's accurate or not. You never know. But the point is that it's easy to hit stationary objects when you're cycling, because you can, and it's done all the time. I mean,
They're called distracted riding or something.
Well, you're kind of like in your own world, and especially like if you're kind of going up a hill or something like that. If I'm going to climb this monster hill, I will look up and I will just see, like, okay, I've got some work to do to get up that hill. And so you kind of look down sometimes, because you don't want to look up, because you think like, I've still got a lot of pedaling to do. I'm not on an e-bike. The only motor I have are my legs. And but I've heard of many people hitting stationary objects, especially like service trucks, like, a truck that's fixing phone lines or something like that, that's out there just parked on the side of the road, but they're still in the road, and cyclists tend to like get to the side of the road.
I've been on accidents where the cyclist runs into a blue mailbox, and I'm like, how did you get off the street onto the blue mailbox at the corner of the curb? But it happens, like you said.
It does, and with these speeds like this, I'm not, now I average about 13 or 14 miles an hour. I mean, it's just a 66-year-old body. When I used to be able to ride 20 miles an hour, I could do it pretty much on a regular basis. Now, the only way I could do it would be an e-bike, is to average that kind of speed. But that is a very significant speed. And I don't think that people realize that, especially like if you're going from a regular bike, and then you're still a kid, and then you switch over to an e-bike, and you think like the same principles apply.
Right.
And then they don't. And like all of a sudden, it's a very bad learning curve, and one that has cost you. And I mean, for me, I just think that, I did read where, like, in 2017, there were 34,000 ER visits. In 2021, there were 77,000. So we're starting to see that go like up on all the things. And one of the things I thought was remarkable was when you start looking around the internet and everything, they've got e-bike attorneys now. So it's along the same lines of, have you been hurt in a semi-wreck or whatever? It's just like, now it's becoming more commonplace to where it actually has its like own class of attorney going after that. And I don't know, do you feel eventually, I mean, you're an ex-law enforcement guy, what about insurance requirements, license requirements, things? I mean,
Well, there
how
are
do you
insurance
see-
companies now that offer specifically for e-bikes insurance, just like automobile or motorcycle insurance. It's something that not something for everybody to consider. It probably depends on where you live and what the populace is in that area and where you're going to be riding and everything. But I do look as this becomes so popular, it becomes possibly a hot button topic with the political class. And as we know, anything they can get their hands on, that's people say, well, I have a right to do what I want. Yeah, you do. You also have a right to die, if you screw up. But I do look for them to go do something nationally. Maybe may take 3, 5, 6 years, could be 10 years, but I do look for them to take these e-bikes as they become more and more popular and as they become more and more, what I want to say, as they get faster. I look for them to say, oh, you're going to have a license. You're going to have insurance. You're going to have that thing, registered because it has a motor, on it. So I think all that's coming down the road, and all it's going to take, like I said, is some people pushing that agenda that they want to see more safety measures. They'll probably require them to do eventually, since it's not actually a bicycle, it's being an e-bike, if it's got any power to it, like you said, like the class 3s and stuff, or the ones that are called super e-bikes, which can do up to 50 miles an hour. Then you're looking at probably going through a licensing class, maybe even like a little, go down and get your temps. I could see them doing that with that eventually, saying, okay, you get an e-bike, you got to go through a 8-hour, 10-hour course or something.
Yeah, because I think you should be required to be at least 16 years old. I don't care what class it is. Right. I don't really care, because if you take like a younger kid even and put them on some of these smaller class bikes and lower torque, it's still so much more than just a regular bicycle. And so I would look at it like you got to have helmets required, except for rentals. I mean, I think that is a problem, that I don't think you're going to be able to legislate rental bikes inside cities and things like that. But other than that, I think you should be required to wear a helmet. And then you can't ride on like interstates or sidewalks. And we say like interstates, who would ride on an interstate? I've seen motorized wheelchairs on shoulders of the road on the interstate.
Yes, I have too. We've seen it here locally.
Yeah.
Up not too far from where you live up there at the intersection of the overpasses for the expressways, and people on lawnmowers doing that. Yeah.
And I've seen them going. I've seen them going down like on one guy's got a motorized wheelchair and he's actually going down the interstate ramp the wrong way, and I'm like, you're getting ready to go on a road where people are going 70 some odd miles an hour and you're in a motorized wheelchair. So humanity, we can think of a lot of things.
It's the quickest route for them.
We can think of a lot of things.
Exactly.
And I'm just like, where does that really come into play as far as common sense? But whatever. But and different. There's so many different laws that are applicable. I think there needs to be some uniformity.
Yeah, because like I said, some states require it, some states don't require. Some states have an age limits. But there's a whole lot of states that don't. That can be anything because it's so new. Even though the e-bikes have been around for a while, they just got popular the last couple of years. But as the population growth continues to go towards that, it's kind of reminds me also of like Nashville and their scooters. Remember when they wanted to do away with those scooters because you can rent those electric scooters and then they like solar charge or whatever, and then if they get done paying for it, it locks up and then somebody else jumps on it.
I was talking to some people that Uber drivers and Lyft drivers in Nashville, and they were just talking about, well, one of them was saying like they picked up a plastic surgeon and they were taking him somewhere, and they were talking about the scooters, and he said like, I spend hours every week fixing those people's faces. He said like, you just wouldn't believe the wrecks they get into, and and I know it's like I've seen these scooters are very narrow, and I saw like this was something my wife and I were talking about, and we still talk about it today. But it was like this big obese guy. He's on the front of the scooter. He's controlling it, right? And he's got a very obese pregnant wife riding on. They're both on the same scooter, and like, you know, that scooter's narrow and they want it. And I'm just like, you know, that's basically 3 people on a scooter. But you know, if you had a wreck, same principle applies to an e-bike or anything. It's just like, you just think, could you imagine, like, you've got an unborn child and you're riding one of those things and have a wreck, and then you suffer and the child does not survive the accident or something like that because you had no business being on it in the first place. And the other thing too that just absolutely blows me away is like when you're a kid, the first thing your mother tells you is like, when you're crossing the street, look both ways. And I'm looking at it like, I don't know if you could relate to this or not, but I'm looking at it like people don't look either way.
No, last time we were down, I took Connie down for her cancer checkup. We walked downtown to have dinner and stuff, and you'll see those people on those scooters, and they're supposed to obey the same sidewalk laws, and some of them are on the streets. You know, they're not looking anywhere, they're just zipping on around. You know, kind of, I'm thinking, you know, there's a pretty little area right here on Broadway. If one of those, you know, tour buses or whatever come barreling down through there, and because these guys didn't pay attention to the light, a couple of them, they just went on around, like, you know, it had a red light, they were on the road, they just went on around because they didn't see anybody coming. And I thought, man, that's not really good if you, somebody pulls out on you. And Connie was saying, she said, isn't that dangerous? And I said, well, you know, I'll quote Marshall Dillon. There's never been a horse that couldn't be rode. There's never been a man that couldn't be throwed. So you can fall, you might ride whatever you want, but if you don't use the common sense, you're going to end up on the ground somewhere.
And I've noticed that, like, when you're trying to, like, maybe take a right turn on red, or even if, you know, you're taking a right turn on green, there could be like somebody on the sidewalk on one of those scooters, and they are just flying, and you can turn right into them because they're not stopping.
Well, they almost run you over when you're walking.
Yeah.
They'll zip around people and be coming, and you're like, you know, what is wrong with you?
And then, like, I think the risk of getting hit by an e-bike or an e-scooter versus a regular cyclist as a pedestrian. Right. There's a lot more pedestrian-related accidents with these e-bikes as well.
Right.
And so, you know, just
what has to be because your sense of reactionary time has to be diminished. Yeah. You know, with a bike, at least you can stop or try and with an e-bike, by the time you figure it out and go to stop, even if you're, you know, not inebriated, which that happens to, it's too late. You've already hit whatever you're hitting.
Yeah. And just, for me, I look at it like one of the worst things that I always had to treat. One of the worst things I've always had to treat are motorcycle wrecks. And it's just like, how incredibly devastating they are to the human body. The motorcycle, you know, I've seen these motorcycles going at least 100, you know, at least. And, you know, I remember, you know, they said like, well, we got a, you know, MVA, motor vehicle accident, coming in the emergency room, so we need you to be down here waiting on it and all that sort of thing. And so, like, they brought in, you know, they were bringing in this body and all this kind of stuff, and like, there's a helmet, and then there's a body, and I can't really see much yet because I'm walking towards that, and then I look at it, and it's the motorcycle rider is over here dead, and his helmet is over here with his head still in it. Yeah, so it's like, I don't know how fast he was going, and there was another one I was talking to. I was in South Carolina where I did my residency, and we had a motorcyclist, another fatality, and it was a motorcycle versus semi, which that ain't no contest.
No.
But anyway, they said
on the screen.
no. And I talked to the state trooper, and he said, well, we found the cyclist, but we found his teeth embedded in the interstate 300 yards away. So, it's granted the e-bike's not going 70 or 80 or 90, but really, if it's going 50, I mean, you're starting to get into that whole.
Well, when you're approaching 50,000 emergency room visits and 5,000 plus hospitalizations, there's a lot of fractured bones in there and a lot of internal damage sometimes, which is why you're getting hospitalized. That's you break a collarbone and your kneecap and something. Like I said, if you're younger, that could end or ruin your season of sports.
Well, it's one of those things that you won't forget it for the rest of your life.
No.
I mean, it's like if it doesn't kill you or if it doesn't maim you to the point of like it's caused you a permanent physical disability but I can promise you will not forget it, because my bicycle wreck was 10 years ago, July. And I remember that thing vividly, every aspect of it. And, I was going 15.2 miles per hour. And you think like, maybe I can have a little bit of control of that bicycle at 15. But I went off the road into a ditch kind of thing. But, I thought maybe I have a shot at just kind of controlling it to where I'm not going to be into the ditch, but I couldn't do it. But the whole point is I think my reaction times were good, but they weren't good enough at 15. So what are they going to be for a kid who's not used to riding very much? And I ride, almost 2,000.
Right.
I've had years where I've ridden almost, thousands of miles. Last year I did well over 2,000 miles. So that's a lot of mileage. That's a lot of experience on a bicycle. So, you can pretty much control your own piece of equipment. But with some kid on this, there's just no way. They don't have the mental or the physical capacity to operate that yet. And a wreck is a hard way to find that out.
That's true.
So what we're trying to do is keep you out of the ER and the OR. We want you to enjoy your life. Yeah, you can cycle and have all kinds of fun, but this electronic equipment that they're throwing out there.
Yeah, you just have to take precautions, be responsible, and make sure you have your safety gear.
Yeah.
And if you can find classes on, or even videos, if you can't find classes on how the safety measures and, safety precautions for riding e-bikes, it's not going to hurt you to do it. I mean, if anything, it'd probably help.
Yeah, and if it's like you're coming up, it's going like, well, I'm planning on getting our kid an e-bike for Christmas this year.
You need to know how to maintenance them too.
Yeah.
Maintenance is very important on just regular bikes, let alone on an e-bike.
Oh yeah, I mean, I get my whole bike broken down every year and every piece clean, and that bike's put back together because I want to make sure, because it's you and the bicycle. And if you don't have a good piece of equipment, you got a major problem. And so I think there's going to be a lot of e-bikes given out this Christmas. But I think a lot of people will buy them not knowing what they're getting. But now, since they've watched this podcast,
maybe they will,
because they've heard about my great catch and they've heard about my bicycle wreck. And so it's just going like, well, that doctor, he got pretty torn up. We better pay attention to that, because you can. And let's just say, for example, if I didn't break any bones, I still had like that road rash.
Right.
And people say like, well, you get a little road rash. Sure. Yeah. Road rash, like, skin off of this arm, that kind of road rash where I could see the vein exposed. That's the kind of road rash that we're talking about.
And if you're not very athletic, it's going to hurt. I remember just a quick story. Growing up in the ghetto areas, when I was a kid, we used to work on bikes and make the banana seat bikes and the big. So I remember once going to do a jump on a bike, and I had two spokes were on, or two the double wheels and had this thing set up, and I went to jump, and as I went to jump, the wheel came off the front. The forks went down into the ground, and I went flip. Now, luckily, because of the training I had, because I was, I've been in martial arts for a little while then, man, I just rolled, and then I rolled and did a belly flop, because my roll was good, though, so I flopped. Luckily, it was grass and stuff, or, but it still kind of scraped me down through there with the grass. So I had a grass stain, somebody had drugged me on a horse or something. So
yeah, I mean, skin versus cement, asphalt.
Oh yes,
it just
I would have messed up if that had been on the street, but we were on the grassy area.
Oh yeah, and I was looking at my wound, and I would say that I was kind of in a modicum of shock, because I'm just sitting there just going through this major wreck with broken bones, and I don't feel any pain at all. I mean, I'm just I'm okay. And then I look at my arm, and it's just profusely bleeding. So I've told you before, I took my jersey off to wrap it, but I'm just I'm picking the rocks and out of my skin, the grass and the rocks and the sticks and all that sort of thing. And I'm just picking that out, and I'm just going this is abnormal.
Hey, I used to help other kids fix their chains, and I need to check my own bike. That's what I'll tell you. Maintenance is very important, and it's good if you get an e-bike. Usually manufacturers will have, not all of them, will have how to maintenance your bike and keep it up, or maybe if you can't afford to go to it, if you can get one but you can't afford to go to a local bike shop, make sure that bike shop knows what they're doing with e-bikes, not just regular bikes, but and I'm sure a lot of them are becoming very skilled now at maintenance because of the popularity of e-bikes, because I'm sure a lot of them sell them. But you want to make sure, like I said, everything's tight, everything's good and secure, so you're not an accident waiting to happen, basically.
Yeah. And they talk about, it's great for sustainability and air pollution and all that kind of stuff, and I get that, I get it. But, like I say, I'm still a purist. It's if I'm going to be riding around downtown, I'm going to be in a car. I'm not, I've been in New York and Chicago and watched these cyclists riding on these streets like that, and I'm just they're crazy.
Yeah.
They're just absolutely crazy. Because, and one friend of mine, he was riding in Chicago and coming out of a major shopping center parking lot. He was riding right through the parking lot and, got hit by a car and broke his pelvis. But it's any of these accidents, when you're on a bike and you get hit by anything, I don't care what it is, it's bigger than you are. Golf cart, car, tree, service vehicle, whatever. You really have to pay you really have to pay attention. And it, the fact that this kid hit a parked car, people say how can you hit a parked car? Well, you can. I mean, because you're distracted. Something's distracting you, and it just takes, as it just a millisecond, and your life has changed, maybe even ended. So that's one of the things that we want to drive home this point is these things are not your standard bicycle. It is a completely different animal. And really, when you're riding your Schwinn or whatever, when you're a little kid, you don't know how fast you're going. You don't know how fast you're going, but more than likely, I can tell you this. I had one of those Schwinns with the banana seat and all that kind of stuff. I can promise you I never hit 50. I doubt I ever hit 20. I doubt if I ever hit 20, because I can think of some downhill where I was going pretty fast, but I probably never hit 20 miles an hour. So 20 miles an hour is very fast.
It is.
So anyway, be careful out there.
Yes. Well, we appreciate it. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy.
Thanks for listening to the Dr. Franken Steve Podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast, please hit follow or subscribe on the link provided so you can stay up to date on new episodes. Until next time, stay healthy and stay safe.